Hi guys, it's Anais from Radio King, and today we're going to be looking at radio programming. So the aim isn't to give you a ready-made recipe for good programming, as obviously it will be different for each radio station, but it's more about giving you ideas about the type of content you can include and the kind of programming to create. At the end of this video, you'll be able to make your own tailor-made programming for your radio that can evolve over time. Good radio programming will help you build loyalty and keep people coming back for more, as there's always new content to listen to. And most importantly, it's not repetitive. So this is less important for new listeners simply because it's hard to judge a radio's programming when you only listen to it for an hour. People will need to tune in regularly over a couple of days in order to fully appreciate the full programming that you're providing. So in order to develop your programming and choose the kind of content that you're going to broadcast, it's super important to define the format of your radio station. So we generally talk about 6 different radio formats. The first is a generalist radio station that broadcasts a bit of everything. So this format relies more on building a relationship with their listeners rather than focusing on broadcasting specific music, for example. It's actually a format that's used by some of the most popular radio stations today. Next, there's the musical format. As the name suggests, it focuses on broadcasting music, but this means that the music selection is going to be more thorough. The idea is to get people to tune in for longer than they would on a generalist radio station, thanks to a great music selection. A music radio station will really appeal to people with a heightened sensitivity to music. Next, the thematic format. This format is aimed at enthusiasts and people with a passion for a particular subject, such as cinema, astronomy, or literature, for example. Put simply, the radio is based on a specific theme. For this format, you'll need to provide specialized content with a certain level of expertise. Moving on to a local format. This deals with the current events and history of a more limited area, such as a region, town, or city, for example. So your potential target audience may be slightly more restricted, however, the content that you offer will be aimed specifically for these people. As a result, there's a higher potential for loyalty. Then, there's the community format, which appeals to, as its name suggests, a specific community. This appeals to people who are united by a common component, such as religion, sexuality, ethnicity, etc. So the content that you offer will generally be related to that common component. And finally, let's take a look at the news format. So this format offers continuous news and information. It's a format that can easily find its audience. However, it can be quite demanding as you obviously need to create content daily. So that's it for the 6 formats. Generally, your radio will stick to a defined format, but that doesn't mean that you can't go and pick ideas from the other ones if you want. And again, when it comes to your format, be sure to keep the original concept of your radio station in mind at all times, as well as your target audience. So, now that you've found your format, what do we do next? It's time to start thinking about the content. In addition to the target audience and concept of your radio station, you also need to think about your resources and means. Can you move around? Can you cover events? Can you have guests live on air? How much time do you actually have to produce content? So as we were saying, the news format takes up quite a lot of time, while a music format will take up less. Let's take a look at some content ideas that you can come up with, starting with music. So music allows you to stream content that you don't have to create yourself. But you can't just broadcast music randomly, even if you're a music radio station. If you have a thematic radio station that's all about cinema, you can focus your musical selection on film soundtracks, for example. If you have a more generalist radio station, you can broadcast the top hits of the week. Again, keep your theme and your target audience in mind. Also, make sure that you have the necessary rights to broadcast the music. The best thing would be to contact the relevant music authorities in the country that you're broadcasting from in order to get all the necessary information about the licensing that you'll need. Alongside your music, you'll also have your radio shows. So radio shows are generally content that is produced before being broadcast. They require preparation, research, and post-editing. You can produce this show on your own and also invite guests to take part in them. If you're dealing with a specific topic, it could be an expert in that area, it could even be a celebrity or a regular on your radio station. Speaking of regulars, you may also have regular radio hosts that also come and do their own shows. It can be a good idea to show that there's a whole team behind your radio station to create a sense of community. Plus, it can give you a break from doing all the work. So there are loads of different types of radio shows. It's up to you to find the right one and develop it. It can be debates with guests, doing an interview, covering events, doing games, The list goes on and on. Finally, we also have live broadcasts. It's a chance to gather with your listeners in real time and even have them participate. It will also help to reinforce that human and community aspect of your radio station. Just make sure that you're fully prepared for your live event. Unlike pre-recorded shows where you can just pick up where you left off, cut things out, fix everything in post-editing, there's no room for mistakes with live broadcasting. You need to make sure that you're giving it enough rhythm, and especially make sure that you test your equipment beforehand. Also, don't forget to record your live broadcasts so that you can use it to create other content. You could maybe offer a filmed version of your live show on YouTube, for example, or simply record it to offer catch-up content in a podcast format for people who weren't able to tune in live. So, to sum up, first you need to find your format. Then you need to decide on your target audience and your concept. Then you're going to put it all together and create a kind of schedule for a typical week on your radio station. I'm going to give you a concrete example with a radio station that I've created called Double O Radio. It's a musical radio station based on music from the 2000s. So obviously music is the main component of my radio. I'm going to create multiple compilations that will be more general to this era, but maybe with a focus on a specific genre or a specific time of day, for example. I also want to include a best of artists kind of playlist that will broadcast the best tracks from a particular artist, a girl power selection with songs by female artists from that era, new releases, so this is more of artists that were popular in the 2000s and that are coming out with new music today, for example, maybe a techno club selection as well for nighttime programming, and only in 2000s, which will regroup all the songs that we are kind of ashamed of listening to from that era. In terms of radio shows, I've come up with a couple of ideas. A focus show, which will be pre-recorded content that zooms in on a specific artist from the 2000s. Musts, where guests tell us about their must-have songs and memories from the 2000s. 2K interviews, where basically the idea is to go out onto the streets and interview people who were born in the 2000s, play them a song from that era that they maybe haven't heard in a while and get their reaction. And finally, some live shows as well. So I was thinking maybe some DJ sets, some games with listeners, and like blind tests, for example. So for this radio station, the idea is to get people to tune in for long periods of time. So we've got our night compilations running from midnight until 5 in the morning from Monday to Thursday, and then the rest of the week focusing more on techno club. As you can see, there's a lot of regular compilation, which just regroups general music from that era. And then we've got some focus compilations as well with pop, electro, UK, hip hop, and rock. As you can see, I've put our best of artists, focus, a rebroadcast of our live, the 2K interviews, and musts. And then in the evenings, we've got our DJ sets, our girl power, our only in 2000s, a few more techno club sessions, and then a live on Sunday afternoon as well. Don't forget that this musical programming needs to be completed with your audio identification, so jingles and sweepers in between your programs. This will help support your radio station's identity and also give your listeners an idea of what's coming up next. So that's it for radio programming. I think that you're now ready to head over to your music library and start creating your very own shows and programs. Happy broadcasting, and see you next time.